UFC 305 this Saturday from Australia in the main event. For the Middleweight Championship, the champion Dricus du Plessis defends against Israel Adesanya. That is your main event this Saturday night. It is a huge grudge match again for the middleweight belt. In the co-main event, it is a flyweight fight between Kai Kara-France and the former title challenger in Steve Erceg. Well, actually, you got a former interim title challenger versus a former undisputed title challenger in Erceg. Mateusz Gamrot, Dan Hooker is on this card as well, alongside Tuivasa and Jairzinho Rozenstruik on the main card also. So we've got 12 fights again from Perth, Western Australia. And folks, if you haven't yet though, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below for some more UFC here on the channel. Tomorrow we'll have our PFL number 8 predictions here on the channel. It is the second playoff card and it features the light heavyweight division. In the main event, you have got the rematch of the light heavyweight title fight last year for the PFL. The champion, Impuka Sanganai, takes on Josh Silveira. In the co-main event, another light heavyweight bout. You've got the other semifinal bout between Rob Wilkinson and Duvaljan Yagashida-Miradov. So make sure to check that out tomorrow. And again, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for some more MMA on the channel every single week. And with it being later in the year, it's August now. The Contender series is back, and real quick, I will give you guys some predictions for the Contender coming up on Tuesday. Again, this is just a quick pick on each one of these fights. Start off the season with a banger between Antoine Ho and Lonnie Kavanaugh. Gonna go with Kavanaugh to win the fight. Kavanaugh is very small for 125. He's 5'4". But again, this is an all-action type fighter who has won multiple times in Cage Warriors. He has gone out there and gotten finishes, taking on a guy in Antoine Ho who has fought in LFA. Again, a very good fight. This should really be a scrap on the feet. I think Lonnie Kavanaugh, though, does pick up the win by decision. Next up, Jose Delgado takes on Ernie Juarez. Interesting, at least on the spread here. You got Juarez, who is the underdog, but yet the favorite on Tapology. You got Delgado, who is the betting favorite and the underdog on Tapology. I'm going to side with the betting favorite in Jose Delgado. Yeah, Juarez is undefeated, but I do like what Delgado has brought to the table. I know his last one again in LFA just 3 weeks ago, taking this fight on very short notice. I think Delgado comes out here and wins this fight pretty quickly, and I think he gets it done in the first round. I'm taking MMA Lab's own Jose Delgado to pick up the victory in the first round by knockout. Again, I think he just catches Juarez early, and I don't think Juarez has fought anybody of the level so far of Jose Delgado. Delgado's only loss comes about a year ago in UFL. Our next fight comes in the light heavyweight division. Bruno Lopez, you might remember from last year's Contender series where he took on Bredson Hibeto and lost. He'll take on Mikhail Sazizani. Probably butchered the hell out of that. The Georgian fighter in Mikhail. Comes in this fight with a record of 13 wins and 2 losses. My problem with him, he hasn't fought the best competition. Just again in regionals over in Europe. Lopez again coming in from LFA. He's done well over there. Came back, bounced back, and won his last fight 6 months ago by arm triangle choke. I just think he's going to give Mikhail a lot of problems on the ground, and I think that's why Bruno Lopez will win this fight. I do think he gets the contract the second time around. Again, it's somewhat meaningful that the UFC brought him back again on the Contender, so I do think Lopez goes out and gets the finish, and I think he gets it done in the first round by submission. Next up, you got Meng Ding taking on Rami Hamed in this fight. Ding again a plus 185 underdog, but you look here on Tapology, 82% of voters are going with him compared to 18% going with Rami Hamed in this fight. It's because Rami hasn't fought anybody just yet. He's 12-3. He hasn't fought in a year and 7 months, and the guys he's fought just haven't been all that good. You look at what Meng Ding has done. Again, he's been fighting over there in China, and Chinese regionals are very tough to predict because sometimes you do get good regional prospects from China, and sometimes you get guys, you know, like the Mongolian Murderer in the UFC, right? I mean, it just depends what product you get from these Chinese regionals. I think Meng Ding does win. I do think the experience does favor him a lot in this fight. This will be walk number 43 for him into the cage in terms of a professional mixed martial arts fight. He is taking on an MMA Masters guy, in Rami Hamed, but I do think Meng Ding does get it done. I think he will get it done by first round knockout. I think someone's going out, and I think it will be Ahmed. I am going to go with the underdog here in Meng Ding. And on to our main event here, you got Mansour Abdul Malik, at least that's how the UFC's broadcast pronounced it, taking on Wes Schultz. This one's really weird because Abdul Malik, and I'm going to pick Abdul Malik, but he hasn't fought anybody just yet. He is undefeated. He's 5-0. He's a minus 400 favorite. A highly touted prospect coming in from MMA Masters, just like how we saw with Hamed in the last fight. Taking on West Party Time Schultz, who's 6-1, has fought decent competition in LFA. He's fought Dylan Budka before, that being his only professional mixed martial arts loss, but Schultz has definitely fought the better guys. Abdul Malik has been fighting in various regionals. Yes, he's had one fight in LFA, but he fought in ex-MMA 2 years ago. I don't know. Again, Abdul Malik has got a lot of power. He can knock guys out, but I am a little bit concerned because he hasn't fought anybody just yet. Again, he's 6'2", 80-inch reach for the middleweight division. He is going to be a huge middleweight. I think he wins the fight. Again, I'm not going to pick against a minus 400 favorite. I just don't think the odds should be exactly just that. Again, Schultz has won fights in LFA. He won back-to-back fights this year in LFA. Again, the only loss being to Budka, but Budka is a UFC name at this point. Schultz has had experience in arguably the best regional in the United States right now in LFA. I would be a little bit concerned with an Abdul Malik win here. I think he gets it, but again, if you're making picks or if you're betting on Contender, I would definitely stay away from this fight. I'm going to take Abdul Malik to win the fight by first round knockout because if he gets it, that's how he will get it done. But I am a little bit concerned as a whole for Abdul Malik in this fight, but we are taking him again by first round knockout. On to UFC 305, we start things off here in the flyweight division with Stuart Nicoll taking on Jesus Aguilar. For Aguilar, this is a guy, again, who's been in the UFC for, I believe, 3 fights now, taking on the UFC newcomer here in Stuart Nicoll. For Aguilar, 10-2, 2-1 in the UFC, coming in first fight, loses to Tatsuro Taira by triangle armbar, then wins back-to-back fights against Shannon Ross and Mateus Mendoza by split decision. I always butcher his name every single time he pops up, but anyways, he beats Mateus by split decision, does Aguilar. Now he's sitting at 2-1 in the UFC. His last fight, I'll be honest, was not that eventful. Aguilar wins most of the exchanges on the feet, and that's what wins him the fight. It's very close. I thought he lost, I'll be honest. I thought he lost rounds 2 and 3, but it is what it is. He beat Shannon Ross before that, but again, everyone kind of beat Shannon Ross in the UFC, and then before that, he loses to Tatsuro Taira, who is now in a contenders fight or a title eliminator against Brandon Royval in his next one. He's taken on the Australian fighter here coming out of Queensland, and it's Stuart Nicoll. For Nicoll, coming off of that last win in Beatdown Promotions earlier this year in 2024, picking up a first-round knockout victory. He's undefeated again, and like what I just said about a lot of these Contender Series guys, and again, Stuart Nicoll, not a Contender Series guy, but still, you just don't know how good the guys they're fighting in the regional promotions are, right? I mean, again, 7-0 professionally, sure, 1 win in ACB, but that was in his professional mixed martial arts debut back in 2018. He has shown the capability of going out there and getting finishes. He's got a multiple knockouts in the past. Again, you look at what he's done, 4 knockouts, 3 submissions. Only 1 fight of his has gone the distance. That was all the way back in 2021. I think he wins. I've never been too impressed with Aguilar, okay? Aguilar had 1 fight where, again, he gets the quick finish. There's that, but it was against Shannon Ross, who just got dominated from pillar to post every single UFC fight he had. And for Stuart Nicoll, again, I'm not all that impressed yet, just because, again, I don't know the level of competition he's fought. He hasn't really fought anybody all that great yet. This is going to be the litmus test here, and I think he will beat Jesus Aguilar. I do think he's got the better stand-up game. Aguilar went out there in his last fight. He got out grappled as well. Again, I don't think Aguilar's striking game jumps off the table at all, and his ground game, I think, leaves a lot to be desired as well. Again, we saw Tatsuro Taira go in there and submit him in the first round, and again, I get that's an outlier in at least, again, Aguilar's progression up the weight class. But I do slightly favor Stuart Nicoll to win the fight. I'm going to take him to get this one done by unanimous decision, fighting at home in his UFC debut. I do think he beats Jesus Aguilar. To our next one here, we go on to the welterweight division. We've got Kenan Song taking on Ricky Glenn. One of the few fights on this entire card without an Australian fighter on it. Or a fighter from that oceanic region. You got Kenan Song, or Song Kenan, taking on Ricky Glenn. I've never been all that impressed with Ricky Glenn, I'll be honest with you. The guy has won 1 fight since COVID started, right? I mean, you look back, 2021, he beats Joaquim Silva by knockout in 37 seconds, but then he has a draw against Grant Dawson where he looks all right, but Dawson just did not condition himself at all for that fight. Then he loses to Christos Giagos by first round knockout. Then Drew Dober chins him in the first round in a fight that shouldn't have been made, but Drew Dober went out there and dominated. Now we get Song Kenan, who is, again, he's a guy who can knock you out. He does not have a knockout finish since 2020, at least, where he beat Callan Potter. That was all the way back in Auckland, New Zealand on the Dan Hooker versus Paul Felder card. Since then, for Song Kenan, it's a knockout loss to Max Griffin. It's a TKO loss to Ian Machado Gary in the 3rd round. It's a win over Rolando Bedoya, and then it's a loss to Kevin Jousset in his last out. I believe that was in the Apex early in December. Now he's bouncing back against Ricky Glenn. I think he wins. Again, Glenn's chin has been really bad recently. His back-to-back fights, again, he's been chinned pretty quickly. Glenn's not getting any younger. He's 35 years old. Song Kenan is 34, but still, Song Kenan looks like a better 34 compared to Ricky Glenn. Sankinan's got power, right? He dropped Ian Gary in their fight in 2023. He dropped Rolando Bedoya on his way to a finish, on his way to a decision back in Singapore in 2023 as well. I think he's got all the potential to finish Ricky Glenn in this fight. I wouldn't be surprised if this is Glenn's last fight in the UFC, and I think, again, it's a pretty obvious pick here. Sankinan first round knockout. I just don't know what Glenn does exceptionally well at this point. Again, his last win comes the Joaquim Silva fight. He knocked him out in the first round. That's great and all, but before that, his last win comes in the UFC Fight Night Boise card back in 2018 where he beat Dennis Bermudez. Again, guys have been able to out-grapple Ricky Glenn in the past as well, and guys have been able to knock him out too recently. Again, back-to-back fights with back-to-back knockouts in the first. I say we make it 3 in a row. Again, I've seen Sankinan. I get it. He caught Ian Gary once, but still, I've seen him drop Ian Gary. I saw him dominate in the feet against Bedoya. He did more damage in the Bedoya fight. Yeah, Bedoya might have out-volumed him, but still, again, Sankinan in terms of damage did win that fight. I am not concerned with him beating Ricky Glenn. I don't think this one lasts very long. I think Sankinan blitzes forward, and I think he does put down Glenn early in this fight. So we're going to go with Sankinan to win the fight by first round knockout. Again, a little bit confused why this fight is taking place on this pay-per-view card. Again, there's an Australian theme in this one, and this one really doesn't fit the bill, but still, we are going to go with Sankinan to win the fight by first round knockout over Ricky Glenn. On to our next one here. Okay. Alex Reyes is coming out here to get slaughtered, right? The brother of Dominic Reyes. He's 37 years old, fighting in the lightweight division against a 24-year-old Tom Nolan. I get what they're doing. I'm not going to say what are we doing here because I completely understand what's going on. Again, they're trying to get Tom Nolan a victory at home, and this is likely the easiest way they can do it. I'm surprised Alex Reyes is still in the UFC, right? This is a guy who's had 2 fights so far in the promotion. 2017 in a fight night card in Pittsburgh, Rockhold and David Branch was the main event. He loses to Mike Perry by first round knockout. His next fight over on Mexican Independence Day, UFC Noche, he loses to Charlie Campbell by first round knockout. That was 6 years to the date after his first fight in the UFC against Mike Perry, September 16th, 2017 to September 16th, 2023. Those were Alex Reyes' 2 fights in the UFC. Now, again, we go to August 17th, this card's going to be on, and he's going to get the big train at Tom Nolan, who's 1-1 in the UFC. It's a loss to Nicholas Mota in his first fight. He gets dropped quickly in the fight and he loses. He's a pretty sizable favorite in that one. He just gets upset. His next fight, he gets dropped against Victor Martinez early in that fight in the first round, bounces back, lands a big knee, puts down Martinez in the first round, and wins the fight. Now he's going to turn it around here against Alex Reyes. Again, I feel like I don't have to say much in this fight. Reyes has had 2 fights in the UFC. He's been knocked out pretty quickly in both of them. He has shown that he's really not UFC caliber. Even when you go back and, again, you can straight up just look at his record and say, all right, he's 0-2 in the UFC with 2 knockout finishes. Again, the guy has not won a fight professionally since August of 2017 over in, what is this? Fight Club OC in Costa Mesa, California. That's the last time he won a fight. But anyways, you can just straight up look at his record and say, all right, the guy's 0-2. He's not very good in the UFC. There's that. But also, go back and rewatch the Charlie Campbell fight. Campbell's beating him to the punch every single time. Again, Campbell is just quicker than him. He's the much better striker. Tom Nolan is going to be the much better striker as well. Again, it feels like both these fights, at least with Reyes and Glenn, they're kind of just being thrown out here. Again, these are guys from the United States just kind of being thrown out here on this Australia card, kind of just to get slaughtered, and I kind of feel like that's how this fight's going to go. Taking Tom Nolan to just blitz or really just find that first shot against Alex Reyes. We saw Alex Reyes get dismantled against Charlie Campbell. I am very confident that Tom Nolan does the same exact thing. He is by far the biggest favorite on this card, minus 1,100 for Tom Nolan, around plus 700 coming back at you if you've got the balls to bet on Alex Reyes, but at that point, you might as well just donate your money to Las Vegas. To our next fight, another one where it feels like kind of a squash match. I'll just be honest with you. Jack Jenkins, Herbert Burns. It's just because Herbert Burns has been very bad recently in the UFC. Like, very bad. Again, we're keeping the brother theme going, I guess. We had Dominic Reyes' brother in the last fight. Now we have Gilbert Burns' brother and Herbert Burns. And again, I kind of just always have this everlasting, just image in my mind of Herbert Burns, of that fight that he had on Long Island to Bill Algeo, where Gilbert Burns had to carry him out the octagon and carry him back to the backstage area because he was just exhausted in that fight. And it's not like Bill Algeo put on some masterclass. I mean, he fought well, but again, Burns just tired out and lost his next fight in Atlantic City, New Jersey, lose to Julio Arce. Arce dominates the fight from pillar to post until the finish in the second round. Again, this is a guy in Herbert Burns who at one point was 2-0 in 2020, back-to-back wins over Nate Landwehr and Evan Dunham. I believe that was Dunham's retirement fight. Then he runs into Daniel Pineda, loses, takes 2 years off, comes back, loses to Algeo, then loses to Erceg. He's just, he just has looked slow. He's been beat to the punch, and guys have just been able to outstrike him. And again, the problem that Herbert Burns has, he's a good jiu-jitsu player. I'll argue not good enough, but he's a good jiu-jitsu player who will try to get fights down, but he really struggles when he doesn't get the fight down. Again, obviously, right? And I think that's going to be more of the same in this fight with Jack Jenkins. I am not too impressed with Jack Jenkins, I'll be honest with you. I thought he had a good win over Jamal Emmers. It was close, but I thought it was a decent showing. His first fight against Don Shainis, yeah, he wins. But I would have liked to seen a finish out of that fight from Jenkins. Shainis took that fight, I believe, on somewhat short notice, if I'm not mistaken. Again, it was Jack Jenkins at home. He wins and he dominates, but still, I would have liked to see the finish in that fight. Jenkins uses wrestling very effectively, and that's the thing, again, in this fight with Herbert Burns, right? I don't think he outstrikes Jack Jenkins, nor do I think he can pull off a submission against Jack Jenkins, because I think Jenkins, if the fight hits the mat, will be decent enough to keep the fight, or, stay on top, control positioning. And I just don't know what Herbert Burns can do to win this fight. I'm going to be completely honest with you. Like, these last 3 fights, not as much the Song Ki-nan Ricky Glenn fight, because not like Song Ki-nan's some world beater. And again, in all fairness, nor is Nolan or Jenkins, but these guys are just younger and they're kind of put in this spot at home in Australia where they're expected to win. And I guess I will keep a tally of the record of the guys from Australia on this card. And if you didn't know where I was going with this pick, we are picking Jack Jenkins. I'll get to the how he gets the fight won, but still, that'll be 3-0 now for the Aussies on this card. Again, I just think Jenkins has got better hands, obviously, and on the ground too. Sure, Herbert Burns might have better jiu-jitsu. Jenkins has been subbed before. You look back-to-back fights in 2017, 2018, he got subbed by an armbar, then a rear naked choke. Sure, it's possible Burns could end up in a submission. I just don't think so. Jenkins is 2-1 in the UFC. The last loss to Chepe Mariscal, who looked pretty good against Damon Jackson last night. I thought he should have done more to get the finish, because he definitely could have got it, because Jackson was just out of there essentially in that third round. He didn't look, he didn't look like he was really in the fight for those last 5 minutes in that co-main event on that last card, which was god-awful, by the way. Sergey Spivak wins. I thought Tabora would have got it, but again, I don't know. Spivak's got pretty good jiu-jitsu for the weight class, right? Something that will give a lot of guys a lot of trouble, considering, again, Spivak can wrestle as well. I said it in the last video, too. I do think Spivak's a guy who is going to be in the top 10 for a very long time. I just don't think he ever reaches the upper echelon of guys. Guys in the future like Tom Aspinall, even Cyril Gahn, who he already lost to, and Jaiton Almeida, I think will beat Sergey Spivak, every single time he reaches those top guys. Again, I'm talking about the future. No John Jones as of yet, but you know what I mean. Mariscal, again, he looked good in the Damon Jackson fight. I thought he should have got a finish, but still, or he should have done more to get the finish. The Jenkins fight at Mariscal was close. I think arguably you can definitely say Jack Jenkins won that first round. The second round, though, Jenkins hurts his arm. It's that throw Mariscal always does. Jenkins posts with his arm. He breaks it. Verbal tap out. It is what it is. Jenkins, again, is bouncing back. About a year later now, I think it's going to be like 10 months since that last fight, and he should just dominate Herbert Burns. I think Jenkins will get a finish in the second round by TKO, whether it be an exhaustion play out of Burns, or just, again, Jenkins just boxing his head in. I do think Jack Jenkins wins the fight. I don't think this is too much of a controversial pick here. Again, Herbert Burns is 36, and he really just doesn't look like he's improving that much. Jack Jenkins, again, the one spot I'm a little bit concerned with him is on the ground. Because I know the jiu-jitsu game Burns has, but again, I'm not really too concerned. I think Jack Jenkins will be able to keep the fight standing, and I do think he'll be able to put a finish on Burns in this fight. Give me Jack Jenkins by second round TKO. As we go on to our next one here in the women's flyweight division, the Skazi, Casey O'Neill takes on Luana Santos. Originally supposed to be Casey O'Neill versus Teresa Bleda. Instead, Santos steps in on short notice. So far, again, the Australians are 3-0, and yes, Casey O'Neill will likely walk with the Scotland flag, but again, she's one of these Australian fighters. She, I believe, trains in Australia, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, trains out of Australia, but born in Scotland. So you got Casey O'Neill and Luana Santos here. For Luana Santos, this is a fighter who's undefeated in the UFC, 3-0, coming off her last victory over in that Fight Night card in Denver on that Namajunas Cortez card, where she went in there and submitted Maria Agapova in the first round. Her first fight in the UFC, she finishes Juliana Miller. Her second fight, she beat Stephanie Egger by unanimous decision. For King Casey O'Neill, this was once a fighter who was looked at as a fighter who could stay in the top 10 for a very long time. I don't know. Some people may have thought she had title aspirations. I thought she was decent. I wasn't putting that on her, but I did think she was going to play a huge factor or a huge, again, role in the future of the weight class. Obviously, I don't think that applies anymore, right? Back-to-back losses to Jennifer Maia and Ariane Da Silva in her last fight. I think it was really apparent where Casey O'Neill at least was skill-wise when she went life and death with Roxanne Modafferi in Modafferi's retirement fight in Houston in 2022. Sure, she wins the fight, but a split decision win over Roxanne Modafferi, who's about to retire, just doesn't look all that great. Modafferi did some damage on Casey O'Neill in that fight. Don't get me wrong, O'Neill won it, but it just wasn't the type of fight you wanted to see. She bounces back, loses a striking battle against Jennifer Maia over in England, and then again gets subbed in the second round against Ariane Lipski or Ariane Da Silva, again with an armbar. I just don't think Casey O'Neill is all that good, I'll be honest with you. And I think, again, part of it is that the UFC built her up very well. They gave her fighters that she could beat on her way up. Shanna Dobson was like 3-5. Laura Procopio wasn't very good. And Antonina Shevchenko probably would have never been in the UFC if her last name wasn't Shevchenko. Okay, and then Roxanne Modafferi was halfway out the door at the time, and O'Neill barely beat her. Not to discredit everything Casey O'Neill has done, but really when you break it down, it's not great. It really isn't. And Luana Santos has looked very good so far in the UFC. 3-0, 24 years old. Again, I could be, getting ahead of myself here, but Luana Santos kind of appears like everything that some people thought Casey O'Neill was going to be, right? And I get it. Luana Santos hasn't fought the best fighters either, right? Juliana Miller was 3-2 at the time. Stephanie Egger has never been the greatest. Maria Agapova had hype at one point in time that has quickly faded away. But Luana Santos is 8-1. Her only loss is a split decision loss in her fourth professional fight to the PFL's own Jenna Bishop, who just made the playoffs. Yes, she just lost to Dakota Ditcheva, but still, Ditcheva, I think, would smoke a lot of these fighters in the UFC's 125-pound division. I'm just saying, I think if Ditcheva beats Taila Santos, the PFL's got a very great claim to having the best 125 women's fighter on the planet. I'm just saying. Because again, Taila Santos took Valentina Shevchenko life and death. We'll see what happens in the Shevchenko-Grasso trilogy bout, but I do think Ditcheva, if she beats Santos, again, I think that makes her really credible. I understand, again, they haven't booked her. They booked her against, very favorable matchups, but if she beats Taila Santos, I'm just saying, regardless of who wins that fight, the PFL will have a claim to the best women's 125-pounder in the world. Do I think Alexa Grasso and Shevchenko beat Santos and Ditcheva? Probably, but still, all I'm saying is that they will have a claim to it, just like how they would have had a claim, or I guess still have a claim with the heavyweight division with Francis Ngannou. I don't know. I don't think a lot of people will be picking Ngannou in a fight right now against either Aspinall or Jones, but it is what it is. If Stipe somehow wins the belt again, definitely they will have a claim to that. But anyways, Luana Santos again. As I went on my little PFL tangent, again, more PFL coming on the channel tomorrow. But Luana Santos, again, 3-0 in the UFC. She's shown very good BJJ skills, and I think that's what she's going to do against King Casey O'Neill here. Again, O'Neill's been subbed just in her last fight. I think Luana Santos will find a way to get this fight on the ground, and I don't think this fight lasts very long. I think Luana Santos actually wins it by first-round submission, marking the first Aussie loss here on this card, moving them to 3-1. Again, I just think Luana Santos, I don't know about levels better than Casey O'Neill on the ground, but I just do think she is better. I think she's able to set traps in this fight. I do think she is able to find a way to a submission early. I think she can work very well off of her back and on top as well, taking Luana Santos to win the fight by first round sub. As we go on to our next one here in the featherweight division, we have got Joshua Culibao taking on Ricardo Ramos in this fight. For Culibao, again, the fifth Australian fighter to make the walk, coming in from New South Wales. He has lost back-to-back in the UFC, back-to-back fights in the UFC, 2 fights ago losing to Leron Murphy, which again, not a horrible loss. No one has beat Leron Murphy yet so far in the UFC. In the fight after that, losing a split decision close fight to Danny Silva. For Ramos, again, another guy who has lost back-to-back fights in the UFC as well. Back-to-back subs by the same method, both guillotine choke losses to Juicy J, Julian Erosa, and to Charles Air Jordan before that. So yeah, Ramos is just an interesting guy in this weight class because again, I fucked up so many times on this card. Ramos just an interesting guy in this weight class. He's lost 4 of 6. The 2 wins, Bill Algeo, not a bad win, and then Danny Chavez went out there and knocked him out in the first round, a brutal spinning back elbow. But the losses, Leon Murphy, Zubair Tukhugov, Charles Jourdain, and Julian Erosa, again, not bad losses either. It's just that Ramos has been beat both on the feet and on the ground in those 4 fights. Murphy knocked him out. Tukhugov had a lot of success in the feet in that fight. Jourdain submitted him. Erosa submitted him. And I think Culibao should have the slight edge in this fight. Again, Culibao has struggled a lot with the grappling recently in the UFC. Again, Murphy kind of beat him everywhere. But in the Danny Silva fight, right, Culibao was the one winning on the feet. He just couldn't get off his back at points in that fight. And that's ultimately what got Danny Silva the victory in that fight, was Silva going in there, putting on the wrestling boots and grappling with Culibao. I don't think he has to worry too much about that in this Ramos fight. From the point that I don't think Ramos is as good of a grappler and good of a wrestler as Danny Silva and Leon Murphy. I don't think he is. I think he's got the jiu-jitsu skills, don't get me wrong, but I don't think he's got the straight takedown abilities that some of those guys have. I don't think so. And on top of that, again, Ramos has found himself in really bad positions on the ground once he's taken the fight down there. Again, look at the Erosa fight, look at the Jourdain fight, right? He got swept and he got reversed in, I believe it was the Jourdain fight, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Again, Jourdain found himself I think Jourdain just pulled the guillotine after he got taken down, if I'm not mistaken. Anyways, again, Ramos leaves his neck wide open. He leaves it exposed. Do I think Culibao is going to go in there and pull a sub? Probably not. But I do think Culibao is at least able to threaten with that, because you know it's got to be in the back of Ramos's mind going into this fight. He's just been submitted back-to-back fights with a guillotine show going in for a takedown. It's got to be there. Again, I know, Ramos, not a bad wrestler. Again, he was able to take down Algeo 8 times. It's obviously his pathway to success, don't get me wrong. I think Danny Silva might be a better wrestler. I don't know, it's close, right? Danny Silva looked really good in his last fight against Culibao. He fought well in the Contender Series bout against Pacheco. That's neither here or there. If Culibao is able to step the takedowns, he should be able to win, because then he will just have Ramos in the feet and he should be able to, outstrike Ramos. I don't think that's too controversial of a take. It's all about if Culibao can step the takedown. I think he does. I'm not very confident in this one, but I'm going to take the hometown fighter coming out of Australia here. I'm taking Culibao to win, making the Australians 4-1 on this card. Give me Josh Culibao to win the fight by unanimous decision. It's all a matter of if he can step the takedown or not. Again, Ramos does have some striking skills. Again, he's hit 2 spinning back elbow knockouts so far in the UFC against Danny Chavez and Ayman Zahabi all the way back in, I think, 2017 or 2018. Or was it 2016? I don't know. It was a while ago. I think it was 2017. I believe it was in New York, if I'm not mistaken. But anyways, again, I think Culibao's a better striker. Yes, Ramos has, flashy knockouts and has some power at points, but I do think Culibao's the all-around better guy. It's a matter of if he can stuff a takedown. I'm banking on the fact that he will be able to. We'll see. I'm taking Josh Culibao to win the fight by unanimous decision. As we go on to our featured prelim, which you've got a combined 1 win out of the 2 guys here in the featured prelim. Junior Tafa takes on Walter Walker. Again, we are continuing the trend of brothers fighting on this card. Junior Tafa, obviously the brother, of Justin Tafa, and Walter Walker, the brother of now, I believe, UFC heavyweight Johnny Walker. Again, I think Johnny Walker is going up to heavyweight now. But anyways, 1 combined win in the UFC between these 2 guys, and it comes with a win over Parker Porter. That was Junior Tafa about 11 months ago. Yeah, okay. Walter Walker disappointed me in his last fight. I mean, it was horrible, right? This is a guy who's undefeated. He's coming in. He's fighting Lucas Brzeski, who's not been good in the UFC. And Walter Walker had nothing for Lucas Brzeski on the feet. Absolutely nothing. He shot for legs, he shot for legs late on Brzeski, but on the feet, completely one-sided. Walter Walker ran out of gas. I thought he actually won the fight, if I'm being honest with you. I thought he did enough in the 3rd round, even though he didn't do much damage. I thought he should have got the nod. It is what it is. But skill-wise, Walter Walker looked horrible. Now he's getting Junior Tafa. Okay, can he take down Junior Tafa, and can he not run out of gas? I think it's possible. Junior Tafa ran into Marcos Rodrigo de Lima in his last fight. De Lima is better than Junior Tafa, just straight up. But de Lima kicked the hell out of his legs. It is what it is. Junior Tafa, again, he's going to need this. He's going to need to keep this fight in striking range. Muhammad Usman gave him troubles in terms of the grappling. That's why I'm a little bit concerned in this fight for Tafa against Valter Walker. Just because, again, Valter Walker will probably go out here and straight wrestle. I truly don't know how good Junior Tafa is. Truly. Is he better than his brother? I don't know. He's a little bit slimmer than his brother. Again, kickboxing background or boxing background. But as a professional mixed martial arts fighter, he's 5-2. Yeah, he picked up a win against a guy who was 6-1 at the time in Ryzen, who's now 8-3. But I'll be honest with you, this guy doesn't really look like a professional mixed martial arts fighter. I don't know. I'll be honest, I haven't watched that fight in Ryzen, but I have seen Junior Tafa in the UFC, and he's been severely underwhelming. Again, the Mo Usman fight, yeah, Usman didn't do much, but the Mo Usman fight is really what's making me think that Valter Walker is going to win this fight. Because again, Usman did not do much damage. Junior Tafa won pretty much every striking exchange in that fight, but Mo Usman was just able to get takedowns. He went 0-for-4 in the first round. He went 1-for-5 in the second, and then 1-for-3 in the third. That's all he needed to win the fight. I kind of think that's what Valter Walker will do. I think he's going to be able to get takedowns, and I just think he's going to be able to lay on him. Now, I am hoping Valter Walker actually goes in there and just tries to get takedowns, unlike Carl Williams, who only knows how to wrestle when he's, wobbled and getting beat up on the feet. If that guy just straight went in there and tried to take guys down, he'd probably still be undefeated in the UFC. I don't know what the hell he was doing against Jonathan Denise last night. It was ridiculous. Anyways, if Valter Walker actually goes in there with the mindset of wrestling, he should win. I'm taking Valter Walker to win the fight. Again, he's 11-1, Junior Tafa's 5-2. Simply put, that doesn't really matter. Valter Walker, again, lost to Lucas Brzeski. And again, should he have won? Maybe, but you're not very good if you're losing to Lucas Brzeski. For Junior Tafa, you're not very good if you're losing to Muhammad Usman. I'm just going to straight up say it. This is a low-level heavyweight fight. The UFC is praying to God that Junior Tafa knocks his head off in the first round, because that's what they want. It's in Australia, hometown guy, goes in there, gets a big knockout, puts Valter Walker away. I am picking Valter Walker to play spoiler. Now, this might be, again, might not be the smartest pick, because again, you just got to think about it setting-wise. Crowd should be going, Tafa at home, but again, don't forget, Justin Tafa lost at home to, oh God, what was his name? I'm blanking. Junior Tafa's brother, Justin Tafa, lost at home in front of all of his hometown fans. I will find it very quickly on a main card of a pay-per-view against Yorgan de Castro back in 2019 in October of that year. I watched that fight from a Colorado Avalanche game in Denver. Yeah, so Junior, again, this is 5 years ago at this point, but I'm just saying, it happened to Justin Tafa. He got the big spot in front of the crowd in Australia, and Yorgan de Castro knocked him out in the first round. I think Valter Walker plays spoiler, and I just think he lays on Junior Tafa for 15 minutes. I think it's a horrible fight, I'll be honest with you. As long as he doesn't run out of gas, I think he'll be fine. Arguably, again, he should have probably beat Brzeski, so I think he will beat Tafa. I don't think he's too bad to the point where he's just going to run into a big right hook or overhand right. I think Walker wins. Walker wins. I'm not confident at all, but I do think he wins. Again, it's just a low-level heavyweight fight. It just straight up is. But I'm going Valter Walker to win the fight by unanimous decision. I think he just wrestles Junior Tafa and picks up the nod. All right, to our pay-per-view opener. Li Jingliang, the Leech, takes on Carlos Prates. Li Jingliang has not fought in a year and 10 months, and now he's taking on a sniper and such a difficult guy to deal with in Carlos Prates. I think Prates is extremely good, and I will straight up say it, the UFC is using Li Jingliang's name to build up Carlos Prates here. That's what they're doing. Again, no Australians in this fight. It is what it is there now. I believe I think 5-3 on this card, 4-3 on this card. I believe 4-3. I think that's how I have him so far with Tafa losing. But Prates has been extremely good as of late, right? This is a guy who is undefeated in the UFC, 2-0, but just the way he's able to go out there and beat guys, it's really showing, right? You look at the win over Charles Radke. 2 months ago, goes in there, works him, knees him to the body, finishes him. Trevin Giles, sniper-like, puts him out with the left, with the straight left. Mitch Ramirez, again, he snipes his way to victory in the second round on the Contender Series. We just haven't seen Li Jingliang that recently, and now he's 36 years old. His last fight is that split decision loss to Daniel Rodriguez. Again, Li Jingliang got the worst end of the stick in terms of that whole UFC 279 debacle. Again, originally supposed to be Khamzat Chimaev, Nate Diaz, Tony Ferguson versus Li Jingliang, Kevin Holland, Daniel Rodriguez. Li Jingliang went from probably knocking out Tony Ferguson to getting Daniel Rodriguez and getting robbed of a decision. I thought he beat D-Rod, but he has not fought since the D-Rod fight. And that's bad. He has not fought since then. He was booked against Michael Chiesa in 2023. It was a spine injury from Li Jingliang that put him out of that fight. He is 2-3 in his last 5. Losses to D-Rod, Khamzat Chimaev, and a loss to Neil Magny. The wins over Santiago Ponzinibbio, where he knocked him out in the first round in Ponzinibbio's return fight, and then a win over Muslim Salikov by knockout in the second. I just think, again, a lot of guys in this weight class are going to have problems with Carlos Prates. Li Jingliang is going to get stuck striking with Prates. That's just where this fight's going to end up. And I simply think that Carlos Prates is just the better striker. I'm taking Carlos Prates to win the fight by first round knockout. That's how highly I think of this guy. And trust me, I think Li Jingliang's pretty solid. But again, it's a combination. We haven't seen him in over a year and a half. And again, Prates is just that good. This guy, again, there's a reason they put him to open up the main card of this pay-per-view. A lot of eyes are going to be on this card. Adesanya is one of the UFC's biggest draws. And again, a big grudge fight against Dricus du Plessis. We will get to that fight and more later. I'm going to talk about that fight at length. But there's a reason Prates is in this spot. The UFC wants him in this spot against a guy that people have heard of. People have heard of the Leech. They've heard of him because of, again, the debacle at UFC 279. They've heard of him from the Khamzat fight where he knocked out Ponzinibbio on ABC. People know who the Leech is, and Carlos Prates is going to benefit off that. He's going to hit him with, I think, it's either going to be a straight left or something like that. It's just going to be a straight that's going to put away Li Jingliang. Prates generates so much power just out of his 1s and 2s, and I think that's where he's going to put Li Jingliang away. I'm taking Carlos Prates to win the fight by first round knockout. To our next one in the heavyweight division, we've got Bam Bam Tuivasa taking on Biggie Boy Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Tuivasa's lost 4 fights in a row. He has not won a fight since over 2 years ago where he knocked out Derek Lewis in by far the biggest win of his career. He is now on the brink of losing 5 in a row. He's not going to get cut if he loses, but this is a fight Tai really needs. I don't think he gets it, though. I'm taking Jairzinho Rozenstruik to win the fight by first round knockout. Rozenstruik's just a lot better. Okay, Rozenstruik looked very good in the Gaziev fight. Again, picked that guy apart, kept the fight on the feet. There's going to be no threat to takedown in this one, obviously, unlike his last 2 fights with Gaziev and with Jaiton Almeida in that main event in Charlotte, North Carolina. He's going to be straight striking with Tai Tuivasa. And unless Tai Tuivasa lands a big overhand right or lands against something like that, Biggie Boy should be able to pick him apart. It's going to be the leg kicks that I think are going to kill Tai Tuivasa. It's the body work and the kicks, again, that Jairzinho Rozenstruik was very successful in doing in that Gaziev fight. And again, it's still the power, too, because Rozenstruik has that as well. I think Rozenstruik was a little bit concerned over throwing in that Gaziev fight, considering, again, Gaziev was such a threat at the takedown, but also because Rozenstruik didn't really need to knock him out. Gaziev was tiring himself out. Rozenstruik could see that, and he was just, again, punishing him with the leg kicks, with his jab, and with his right as well, which gave, again, Gaziev a lot of trouble. He ended up quitting due to exhaustion at the end of the fourth round. He, lost the fight because he ate too many Whoppers before the fight. And now Rozenstruik's back in, a big spot against Tuivasa in Australia on Tuivasa's home turf. And I think he straight up dominates him. Again, Ty's only 31. It is what it is. And Ty has only lost to the best guys recently, okay? Cyril Gane, Sergey Pavlovich, Alexander Volkov, Marcin Tybura. I know Tybura just lost to Spivak, but it is what it is. And actually, Spivak beat Tai Tuivasa in Australia the same night that Justin Tafa lost to Yorgan De Castro. Sergey Spivak choked Tai Tuivasa out cold with an arm triangle choke on that main card as well. Again, watch that fight from that Colorado Avalanche game against the Dallas Stars. I think they're playing the Stars. No, Minnesota Wild. Playing the Wild. I saw the Stars in Chicago. Anyways, for Tuivasa, he's lost 4 in a row, right? Again, Tybura took him down, submitted him. Volkov took him down, submitted him, but Volkov was having success in the feet. Gane finished him in the third. Very good back and forth fight. Sergey Pavlovich beat Tai Tuivasa in the first round by knockout. It was a combination of Pavlovich being better on the feet, but also Tai took that fight literally 3 months after losing to Gane. It made no sense. I don't know how he got cleared for that fight. Rozenstruik, though, should win. Again, Rozenstruik still got power in his shots. Again, look at the way he's able to finish Chris Daukaus and Augusto Sakai. And I understand those guys are not the best heavyweights, but at some point in time, we're going to have to start looking at Tai Tuivasa as not one of these upper echelon top guys. I'm just being straight up blunt with you. He is a top 10 guy for now, but at this point in time, I will list you the guys under Tai Tuivasa in the UFC's 265-pound division and tell me if you think they beat him. Derek Lewis in a rematch, I think Derek Lewis can beat Tai Tuivasa. Jairzinho Rozenstruik's going to beat Tai Tuivasa. Alexander Romanov, who's likely going to fight Derek Lewis in a main event in Edmonton, I think beats Tai Tuivasa just because of the wrestling, and I get it. Romanov has not been very good as of late, but still, I think he would beat Tai Tuivasa. De Lima, I think, would lose to Tuivasa, and I think Nascimento would lose as well. So again, there is a place for Tai Tuivasa in the top 15. I just don't think there's a place for him in the top 10. I think Jairzinho Rozenstruik dominates. Again, I just think it's the overall body of work that Rozenstruik's able to put on Tuivasa on the feet that's going to be able to win him this fight. Tuivasa is straight going to be headhunting. Jairzinho Rozenstruik has fought power punchers before, and don't get me wrong, he hasn't really beat many of them. Ngannou beat him. Blades, who does hit somewhat hard, had to wrestle him, but Volkov knocked Rozenstruik out in the first round. So yeah, power punchers have been able to put Rozenstruik away. But I just don't think Tai Tuivasa is as skillful as those other power punchers like Ngannou and Volkov. I know what you're thinking. Well, Ngannou beat Tai Tuivasa by doing this, by literally windmilling his way to victory. I understand that. But still, Tuivasa doesn't hit that hard. Rozenstruik's definitely learned from that. Rozenstruik's a better fighter than he was back in that Ngannou fight. And sure, again, Rozenstruik has traded wins and losses. This guy has not won back-to-back fights since the Alistair Overeem fight in Washington, D.C. in 2019. I do, though, think this is where he will get that back-to-back win. I think he beats Tai. And again, Tai will lose 5 in a row now, but I just think Rozenstruik's so much better. I think the leg kicks, along with the fact that Rozenstruik hits very hard still, too. Give me Jairzinho Rozenstruik to win the fight by first-round knockout. As we go on to our featured bout in the lightweight division, we've got Mateusz Gamrot taking on Dan Hooker. I like Dan Hooker. I really do. I'm glad he's taking this fight. I'm glad he gets to fight at home. By the way, now, the Australians are, let me recalculate this, are 1, 2, 3, 0, 4 and 1, 4 and 2. They are 4 and 3 on this card. So if I butchered it earlier, they're 4 and 3 on this card. Dan Hooker's up next against Mateusz Gamrot. I like Dan Hooker a lot. I'm glad he gets this fight. I just don't think this fight favors him too much. I think it's a very tough fight. Mateusz Gamrot's good. Say what you want about the guy. Did he get lucky in the Fiziev fight? Did he get lucky in that win over Jalen Turner? Sure. But the guy's pretty good. And he is able to go out there and just out-wrestle guys and give them a lot of trouble. Look at the RDA fight. Look at it. He takes him down 11 times, dominates on the ground. Not a lot of guys can do that to Rafael dos Anjos, I don't think. Again, RDA is he's at the twilight of his career, sure. But Gamrot looked very good in that fight. Dan Hooker beats Jalen Turner, takes a lot of damage in that fight, but gets the nod. He beats Claudio Puelles before that. But these are guys who aren't looking to take Dan Hooker down. Mateusz Gamrot's going to take him down, and Mateusz Gamrot does not care how boring the fight can potentially be. I'm not saying Mateusz Gamrot's a boring guy per se, but I'm just saying he does not care about that. He's going to go in there and just put Dan Hooker on his back for 15 minutes. I don't think Dan Hooker's going to be able to get away. I think it's going to be a very wrestling-heavy approach for this fight for Gamrot. I think he should be an even bigger favorite than minus 260. And again, like the old way to beat Dan Hooker was just to stand and bang with him and knock him out, right? I think the chin has officially healed. I think it has finally healed from that Dustin Poirier war and then the knockout from Chandler. I think, again, the chin is back. And the Arnold Allen fight, well, Dan Hooker just went in there and swung recklessly, and he got knocked out. It is what it is. He took damage from Turner. He stayed in the fight, and he won the fight. Was it close? Did I think Jalen Turner won? Maybe, but it's fine. He gets Gamrot over a year later now, and it's unlike, though, the Turner fight. It's going to be unlike the Chandler fight, unlike the Poirier fight, unlike the Arnold Allen fight, and unlike the Claudio Puelles fight, too. It's just that, again, he's fighting a very good wrestler. Mateusz Gamrot is very good at taking guys down. His striking game, again, is ever evolving, don't get me wrong, but where Mateusz Gamrot wants this fight is going to be on the ground. And I think he's going to be successful in doing that. I think Gamrot's going to give Dan Hooker so many problems in this fight. And I get it. Dan Hooker, again, very good defensive wrestler. Mateusz Gamrot is a very good offensive wrestler. Gamrot's the guy who's being overlooked a lot in the title picture right now. Again, he's number 5 ranked. If the UFC does this, which I don't think they will, it's an outside shot this happens, but they really need a main event for 307. And again, I'm going to suggest a Mateusz Gamrot main event of a pay-per-view, but hear me out here, okay? You need a main event for UFC 307. It looks like Islam can't fight till next year. Okay. Are you going to keep Tsarukyan on the shelf for that long, or are you going to make him fight for an interim belt? You can make him fight for an interim belt. Again, I understand it's potentially a Mateusz Gamrot main event of UFC 307 in Salt Lake City. And yes, are the people of Utah going to turn out for an Armenian versus a Polish guy? They're going to turn out for whatever UFC card is there. But hold on. And again, Jose Aldo is going to be on the main card. Kevin Holland, Chris Curtis, Aljamain Sterling, Movsar Evloev. Kayla Harrison likely gets bumped to the prelims if this happens. But just hear me out. Would you rather have Mateusz Gamrot and Arman Tsarukyan number 2, or would you rather have a fight that will happen, but would you rather have that or Raquel Pennington and Juliana Pena in the main event of 307? Just put them both on there. Give us an interim title fight in the main event. Do I think that's going to happen? No. I think if they are going to do an interim title fight, hear me out, I think they'll probably give it to Gaethje. I think Gaethje will get the interim title fight. I know he just fought. Well, by the time that card is in September, it would have been, 6 months since he fought Holloway? That is enough time for the chin to heal. I think Gaethje would take the interim title fight against Tsarukyan. I think he would. Here's my thing. I think they give Gaethje that fight just as a thank you to taking the Holloway fight and getting the BMF fight at UFC 300. And again, if Gaethje doesn't break his nose in the first round, where's that fight go? I don't know. But that would be my guess. If they are going to do it, I don't think they will. I think they're going to just have Tsarukyan wait for Makhachev, and I think they're going to make us watch Pennington and Juliana Pena in a main event of a pay-per-view in 2024. It's ridiculous. But still, but if they do it, I think it would actually be Gaethje versus Tsarukyan. I think, again, it's a thank you for Gaethje because Gaethje did not need to take the Holloway fight. If he sat out that fight, he would have been the guy fighting Islam in New Jersey instead of Poirier, right? I think that's what they do because they don't want to put Gamrot Tsarukyan 2 in a main event. However, you can kind of tell Tsarukyan, hey, dude, you already lost to Gamrot. Gamrot's climbing his way up the ranks. You have to fight him before you fight Islam. I don't know. Personally, again, I would do Gamrot Tsarukyan, but again, I'm not running a multi-billion-dollar company that, again, is trying to sell pay-per-views, which, why would that company then put Juliana Pena and Raquel Pennington in the main event of a pay-per-view? I don't know. But again, that's what I would do. I do Tsarukyan and Gamrot. But again, as someone who is a big Justin Gaethje fan, I would not mind seeing Gaethje fight Tsarukyan. But ultimately, again, I think Gamrot beats Hooker. Where does he go from here? I don't know, honestly. Probably Charles Oliveira. If Oliveira's staying at 55, that'd probably be what's next, I would think. But give me Mateusz Gamrot just to go out here and out-wrestle Dan Hooker. We'll see what his future holds. Again, I think it should be an interim title fight. But again, I understand Mateusz Gamrot's not a big draw at all. And does anyone really want to see Gamrot main event a pay-per-view? I don't know, but he does have a winner for Tsarukyan, and he looked pretty good in that fight. And that fight was actually pretty good. It was just in the Apex. So we'll see what we get. Co-main event time. Okay, to the flyweight division, we have got Kai Kara-France taking on Steve Erceg. So Erceg's coming off of that title fight where he lost to, of course, the champion Alexandre Pantoja. Erceg now is back in a co-main event spot. Again, his stock has quickly rised since that loss to Pantoja because he looked very good against Pantoja. Don't get me wrong, Pantoja, I think, won the fight pretty clearly. But Erceg's good. Erceg is a legitimate top 5 guy in the weight class, and I think he's going to give Kai Kara-France a lot of trouble in this fight. Kai Kara-France is coming off back-to-back losses to Amir Albazi and Brandon Moreno. Now, did he get absolutely robbed in the Amir Albazi fight? Yeah, he did. But still, back-to-back losses. You can look at the Moreno fight, and again, Moreno out-kickboxed him, caught him with the body kick, right to the, what do they call it? Solar plexus? I could be completely mistaken on that terminology. I could be I think that's a professional wrestling term. I could be completely mistaken. Come right in the liver is what I'm looking for. Solar plexus, I think, is something else. I was never good at the human body in terms of understanding it. Anyway, that sounded very weird. Anyways, he loses to Brandon Moreno, right? Now he's going to get Steve Erceg. I just don't know how Kai Kara-France hangs in the feet with Steve Erceg. Again, you saw what Steve Erceg was able to do. He was winning on the feet against Pantoja. Again, the fight was not a kickboxing fight, obviously. It's an MMA fight. But in a kickboxing fight, Steve Erceg would have beat Alexandre Pantoja. I don't think you can say Kai Kara-France beat Steve Erceg, at least that Steve Erceg, in a kickboxing fight. I just don't think so. And that's really where this fight is going to be. It's going to be a kickboxing fight. And I just think Steve Erceg is better. I think Steve Erceg hits harder. Again, he damaged Pantoja with a lot. And just he's the way more cleaner striker. He's got, again, Erceg is just, I think he's just better. I think he sets better traps than France. I think he's going to catch him with a lot. I think Kai Kara-France overswings at times. And right there, Erceg's going to stay in, be on his 1s and 2s, and he's probably going to I don't think he's going to put away Kai Kara-France, but he's just going to disrupt whatever offense Kai Kara-France is trying to bring in this fight. And I think that's where Steve Erceg wins. I'm taking Erceg to win the fight by unanimous decision. Again, he's got a lot of power for 125, but was that, again, his power, or was that just Matt Schnell's chin? I don't know what that was. But I do think he beats Kai Kara-France. I think what Kai Kara-France is going to try to make this fight, he's going to try to make it wild. That's how he's beaten some of these, again, top-level 125-pounders. Even Askar Askarov, try to make it wild, try to keep the fight standing, try to get Askarov to swing with him, because that's how Kai Kara-France had the best way to winning that fight. And he won that fight, obviously, in Columbus, right? Cody Garbrandt got Garbrandt to swing with him again. Kai Kara-France delivered, knocked him out in the first round. The Bontorin fight made it crazy, knocked him out at the end of the first round. Brandon Royval fight, he tried to make it a wild fight, but Royval, again, is just a better fighter at trying to make it wild than Kai Kara-France, and that's why Royval is in the fight with Tetsuro Taira for probably, I would think, Pantoja's next title challenger at the end of the year. That's another fight that could be at 307. Would be Pantoja against someone. I would think Kaya Sakura coming in from Ryzen, but would you really put a Brazilian versus a Japanese dude in Utah? Well, they're going to put Juliana Pena and Raquel Pennington in a main event in Utah. So why does it matter anymore, right? What happened to the sport I love? What happened? Anyways, I think Erceg beats Kai Kara-France. I just think he does. I think he's the way better striker. I think his jabs are really effective. He was able to disrupt a lot of the offense Pantoja was able to bring, was trying to put on him. And again, Pantoja would have to just, mix up and grapple, which again, Pantoja won the fight, don't get me wrong. I just don't think Kai Kara-France can result to that, because I think, again, Erceg dusts up a lot of these guys on the feet in the UFC. And again, the way Pantoja won was because he was able to mix it up. I don't think Kai Kara-France is going to be able to mix it up, so I think he's going to get stuck kickboxing with Steve Erceg. And with that being said, I think Erceg beats him. So give me Steve Erceg to win the fight by unanimous decision. Real quickly, I'll look at the rankings. I think that puts Erceg in a fight with Amir Albazi. I don't know where Albazi is, I'll be honest with you. Yeah, or Perez Moreno. Or sorry, not Perez. Erceg Moreno. I wouldn't mind that either. Erceg won Moreno in the Sphere. It's not going to happen. Yeah, I don't know. Again, we put 10 fights in the Sphere, and Ode Osborne, who I really like, is on the main card. Like, what are we doing? Where is Brandon Moreno? Where is, it doesn't make sense. Where is Yair Rodriguez? Where are these guys? Anyways, I think Erceg wins. Give him either Albazi or Moreno next. Those fights make sense, but Erceg goes out there and outstrikes Kai Kara-France to victory. And now to the main event. I have been waiting so long to talk about this fight. Okay, I've been waiting a very damn long time to talk about this one. I'll straight up say it right now, Dricus du Plessis is going to beat the ever-living hell out of Israel Adesanya, okay? I might be a little biased here. I might be a little bit biased here, but okay, I'm just going to straight out say it. Dricus du Plessis is going to beat that dog f***er's ass, all right? He is going to beat the shit out of him in this fight, okay? I think Adesanya is halfway out the sport, I'll be honest with you. And again, I could be completely wrong when this fight happens. Don't get me wrong. I am not, I'll just straight up say it, I am not the biggest Izzy fan. I'm just not. But I know the guy's very good, okay? Alex Pereira is the biggest star in the sport right now. And again, his last loss, and the reason he is up at 205 pounds, again, he probably would have gone up eventually, but still, the reason why he went right up was because Izzy knocked him out. Again, Pereira is the guy. And again, you might look at Adesanya because of his last fight against Sean Strickland where he got dominated, and you're thinking, okay, this guy's washed up. Well, just 2 fights ago, he knocked out Alex Pereira. Don't get me wrong. Pereira was winning the fight until the knockout. And again, his last fight, Izzy's last fight, Strickland was beating the ever-living hell out of him. I understand that. But Izzy is still capable. Now, I think, though, he's halfway out the sport. He's 35 years old. How motivated is he for this fight? He'll obviously be more motivated against Dricus du Plessis than he was against Strickland because he did not take Strickland seriously. Strickland's always been an Apex main event guy, and Strickland went to Australia and beat the crap out of Adesanya in that fight, won 49-46 on all 3 cards. So again, and the difference between that fight and this one is that Adesanya does not like du Plessis. He thinks du Plessis is a racist, which, I mean, what are we doing? I mean, again, I'm not gonna get into the antics of that fight. Again, what Dricus said and how Izzy made it out to be was completely ridiculous. But I'll talk about the fight here. Izzy's 35. Again, the guy beat Pereira a year ago, but 10 months ago he got dominated by Sean Strickland. And Sean Strickland, I say that every time I talk about Strickland in the middleweight division, Sean Strickland's getting screwed, completely screwed. He just fought Dricus du Plessis, arguably won the fight. I thought Dricus won, but it's a very close fight that went the distance. Since then, Sean Strickland's won a fight. He beat Paulo Costa. And say what you want about Paulo Costa, but he won the fight. Strickland's not fighting Dricus du Plessis. No, Adesanya, who lost to Sean Strickland, is getting an immediate rematch for the belt against Dricus. And again, the reason they're doing it is because, again, the whole face-off after Dricus' win over Robert Whittaker, it is what it is. But Dricus is going to beat this dude's ass. He's going to. Dricus, is he a better all-around striker than Israel Adesanya? 2 years ago, I'd say, is he? And again, people make fun of Dricus because of his style, head down, big overhand right, he gets turned, he'll throw the funky elbow or whatnot. Sure, I understand it. But I just don't know how motivated Izzy is at this point of his career. And again, if Sean Strickland, who I know fights a very different fight style than Dricus does, but still, Strickland walked him down and outboxed him for 25 minutes. I think Dricus is going to get in Izzy's face. I think, again, I don't think Dricus is going to get countered here. For what, again, people mock Dricus' fighting style, but Dricus really doesn't get hit all that cleanly. He doesn't. Again, you can, and people will do this all the time on Twitter, you can pause fights of Dricus where you'll see him exposed, you'll see him throwing a funky elbow or a funky back fist or whatnot, and in a split second, his chin is left wide exposed. Again, that's how you view the fight after the fight. In the moment, Dricus is, I think, pretty decent in terms of getting out the way of big strikes. And again, the nose is fixed. He's been a lot better since he got the nose fixed. We're looking at the Whittaker fight. We're looking at the Sean Strickland fight. The cardio is not an issue anymore. It's not a problem at all. So strictly stand-up wise, I think Dricus has a good chance against Adesanya. Don't get me wrong. Adesanya could definitely beat Dricus. I am not like, again, I don't like Izzy, but I will give credit to where credit is due. Adesanya, I would say, is the favorite in a straight kickboxing fight against Dricus du Plessis. Okay? However, the threat of the takedown and the takedown itself changes the fight entirely. And that's where Dricus is going to win. Again, he might straight up win the striking fight. That can completely happen. But I think he's got a huge advantage on the ground, and I think he's going to be able to take Adesanya down. That's something that was not tested in the Sean Strickland-Israel Adesanya fight because, simply put, Strickland didn't need it. But Dricus is going to go in here. Dricus is going to take him down. Dricus is going to drag Israel Adesanya into deep waters, and he is going to ground and pound and punch Israel Adesanya's face in on the ground, along with Dricus du Plessis winning on the feet. Because again, once you shoot a takedown or once the threat of the takedown is present, that is going to be in the back of Izzy's mind. He is going to be tentative. Du Plessis is going to put damage on him in the first round, and Adesanya is going to go back into autopilot mode like he did in the Strickland fight in rounds 3 through 5. Yes, he did win the second round, but it is what it is. He lost the last 3 because he went into autopilot mode. Strickland was, again, doing the man dance with him, walked him down, was yelling in Izzy's face, and Izzy, all he could offer was a front leg kick. I think Dricus is going to damage this dude pretty badly. Again, people will make fun of Dricus du Plessis, but it's not luck that he's beat Robert Whittaker and Sean Strickland in back-to-back fights. No one finishes Robert Whittaker like that. To this date, no one has beat Robert Whittaker like that. Again, other than Izzy's win in 2019. But again, that's just not what guys do to Robert Whittaker. Whittaker is still a top guy. He's fighting Hamzat, and if he beats Hamzat, he's going to fight for the belt next as well, right? Again, Whittaker has beat Paul Costa, he's beat Ikram Alaskarov. Whittaker took that spinning back kick from Paul Costa, stayed in the fight, ended up winning the fight in Anaheim back in UFC 298. Dricus hits hard. It was the power jab he throws. But I think it's really, again, people underestimate how hard Dricus du Plessis hits. This is a guy who's been kickboxing his entire life from Hatfield, Pretoria, South Africa. He's been training kickboxing his entire life. And again, he's the better wrestler as well. And I understand it. Okay, Izzy's a good kickboxer too. Sure, I'm not denying that at all. But again, I think Dricus is close with Izzy in a straight kickboxing fight. Where Dricus pulls away, though, is with the threat of the takedown and with the takedown itself. That's where Dricus du Plessis is going to win this fight. And that's where he's going to go in here and beat Israel Adesanya's face in. He's going to punch Izzy's face through the canvas. And Dricus du Plessis is going to beat Israel Adesanya by third round TKO. Again, I'll be completely transparent with you. I am a little bit biased on this pick because I really like Dricus, and I'm not a fan of Adesanya. I'll be completely straight up honest with you. So again, I've said this time in and time out when I've had slight biases towards picks in the past. Pretty much every Colby Covington fight, I've said that, but still, right? And that was in favor of Colby, which what are we doing, dude? Are you gonna fight ever again? I don't know. Hell, maybe Lux his way into a Bilal fight. I don't know. Again, I don't think I'd like Colby right now in a fight against Bilal Muhammad, but it is what it is. Again, I'll be completely straight up honest with you. I'm a little bit biased in the pick, but I do think Dricus is better. Truly, I think du Plessis is a better fighter than Israel Adesanya. I love Dricus at plus money right now, especially against a guy who just lost 4-1 against Sean Strickland in his last fight. Don't get me wrong, Strickland's good, but again, Adesanya got walked like a dog, pun intended, and again, Dricus should be able to do the same. So as we finish out this video, I think Dricus du Plessis wins the fight. And I think Dricus du Plessis, I hope he comes out with, just a dog at the press conference, for all our canine friends. And I think Dricus du Plessis is going to beat the ever-living hell out of Israel Adesanya. I've said it time in and time out, but I do just think Dricus is the better striker. I think Dricus, again, people make fun of him online for his striking style, but again, you don't beat Whitaker and Strickland based purely on luck, right? And again, how motivated is Adesanya? How much does Adesanya really want to be in the sport? He's 35 years old. I would say the slight motivation for him would be, okay, if he wins the fight, then okay, yeah, the fight with Pereira is set up again at 205. But I don't think it gets there. I think Dricus du Plessis beats him. I think the wrestling's going to play a huge factor. And my prediction is that Dricus du Plessis is going to get Israel Adesanya down in the third round. I think we'll get him down prior to that as well. I think he's going to be winning exchanges in the feet. And in the third round, du Plessis levels changes. And he does this a lot. Again, you saw in the Strickland fight at the end of the first and second, I believe the third round too, du Plessis shot for the takedown and got it at the end of the rounds. It might have just been the first and second, but still, he's going to do that against Izzy, make Izzy worry about it. And in that third round, he's going to, successfully shoot for the double, get it, and he's going to dominate Adesanya on the ground. It can be Dricus du Plessis by third round TKO to beat Israel Adesanya and to protect all the dogs out there in the world. Give me Dricus from South Africa to win the fight by third round TKO. So folks, thank y'all for watching our UFC 305 predictions here with Dricus du Plessis and Israel Adesanya in the main event. Make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure to come back tomorrow for our PFL predictions, and we'll be back next week for the UFC with Caio Borralho and Jared Cannonier main eventing in the UFC Apex. But hey, the Apex is going away very soon in November. It's going away for renovation until next summer, so it is what it is. But we got Cannonier and Borralho next week, and then tomorrow we have got the light heavyweights and the lightweights for the PFL season as well. Or no, the featherweights and the light heavyweights. Brendan Loughnane. You've got, quickly, I'll rattle off the fight card. You got Loughnane versus oh, no, I'm completely butchering it. It's the lightweights. Loughnane already fought. I'm completely butchering this. It's the 155-pounders. Brent Primus, Clay Collard, Gadzir Badanov, Michael Dufour. The reason why I'm kind of forgetting this is because lightweight's kind of boring in the PFL. Clay Collard got dominated his last fight, and now he's fighting Brent Primus in the playoffs. So, it's just Dufour lost his last fight, and he's in the playoffs as well. Anyways, folks, thank you for watching. Make sure that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure the subscribe button down below for more. Make sure you like if you did enjoy the video. Mamba, forever.